the news at hand. It's Teddy Bridgewater re-signing with the Detroit Lions out of nowhere. This is something that I just didn't expect at all. Obviously, with Jalen Reeves-Maven back, the Lions waived David Long Jr., creates a roster spot. They're able to pick him up. And you know what? Our social account, I believe it might have been Travis who posted this. I love this statement here because when you talk about the intrinsic value, and I agree with you. With the CJ stuff, the pinnacle was the fact that we know what they're saying he's supposed to be bringing in the locker room and the experience and whatnot, but he wasn't performing on the field. But with Teddy Bridgewater, we got direct first-hand reports from players that said, no, he's actually helping to make a big difference, and we saw it coincide with the improvement of one Jameson Williams. So Detroit Lions wide receiver Jameson Williams had this to say about Teddy Bridgewater. This was back in August via Fox 2 News. Shout out to Dan Miller. He says, Teddy came in and he got my mind so focused on what I needed to do. I was in a wrong place. Teddy came in and he helped me so much, man. He just came in and told me, you do this, you do that, how to do it and how to do this. He just helped me in a lot of ways, man, off the field. I couldn't even explain how much he helped me. I think that was maybe the turning point. And now they got him walking back into Allen Park, man.
Yeah, and that obviously being a mentor to a Jameson Williams, who obviously at the time probably needed some guidance from a veteran player, that's huge. To me, honestly, though, I think on the football field, and obviously we hope Teddy Bridgewater never takes a snap with the Lions.
Never.
It's a nice example to me of keeping up with the Joneses a bit. And I think it was necessary that the Lions did this because we're talking about a team in the Detroit Lions that has had a lot of injuries. Again, knock on wood, because the player that Teddy Bridgewater would have to replace is someone we certainly don't want to see the Lions lose. Again, knock on wood. I know I'm doing this obnoxiously, but I'm putting things out there that I wish that I didn't have to. My point is that when you look at a lot of the other contending teams in the NFL, the Buffalo Bills, their backup is Mitch Trubisky. We can point and laugh at Mitch Trubisky all you want, but as a backup, he is somebody who has won a lot of games in the NFL. He actually was the quarterback on the Bears team in 2018 that made the playoffs. I'm not saying it was all because of him, but as a backup, you want somebody who's proven that they can win games in the NFL and step in. The Chiefs have Carson Wentz. Similar situation. The Eagles have Kenny Pickett. Again, you can point and laugh at Kenny Pickett, but he did quarterback those Pittsburgh Steelers teams to the playoffs. I'm not saying that he had a big part of it, but he's a backup for a reason. The Rams have Jimmy Garoppolo, and the Commanders have Marcus Mariota. And prior to Teddy Bridgewater being there, the Lions had Hendon Hooker, somebody who we like his talent, we like his upside, but hasn't done a damn thing in the NFL. Literally nothing. Just a couple of snaps in garbage time. And I'm not saying that Teddy Bridgewater, this is the most ideal. He's coming in after being a coach at Miami Northwestern High School or something like that, and coming in cold.
Shout out to the champs.
Shout out to the champs. But he was in the system all last year. He's a veteran. I don't think the learning curve is going to have to be too steep. So if in the instance that the worst thing ever happens, I would rather have a Teddy Bridgewater out there than a Hendon Hooker, at least for this stretch run. And that's why he's so valuable to me.
Yeah, and you know what? And because obviously we have to cover what impact this means to the roster as it relates to the field of play. And Dan Campbell was definitely, we made sure to say, hey, listen, we still believe in Hendon Hooker. This is not an indictment on him. But it's just, in my opinion, reinforcements. And you have a guy that is already familiar with this room. You have a guy that's already made an impact in this room. And if you're going to have a player that is, knock on wood, if he has to step on the field, you know that he can handle what needs to be handled. But if not, what type of impact is he making? And we know this, that quarterback room, it underwent a lot of remaking over this offseason. Sudfeld and Bridgewater were gone effectively. And we understand that what these players meant to Jared Goff and to J-Mo. Bringing back Teddy Bridgewater, I look at this not just for the impact that he could make on the field, where it does make me more comfortable now with our quarterback room, but also knowing that he's going to still be paying dividends right now. if there's some aspect, as you're hearing that, he's obviously going to be able to lend his football IQ and his football mind to the situation too. That's why I absolutely love it. I don't know if it's something where they're looking on the defensive, offensive, or just all around. Hey, Teddy, what are you seeing here? Hey, Teddy, what do you like here and there? But I'm curious to see the overall impact. Who knows if we'll be able to really get a good, clear picture of it. But the fact that Brad Holmes and co. felt like this was a move that they needed to make, it encourages me, man, for this team. It's reinforcements, as you state, as they're gearing up for a big stretch.
Yeah, I'm seeing a bunch of people in the chat talk about how he's they're bringing him in to train him to be a coach in the league at some point, at least maybe a positional coach. I hear Jerry Alexander, Teddy Bridgewater going to be the QB coach after Mark Brunell leaves with Ben Johnson. Hey, does that mean Ben Johnson's back next year? I would love to see that, but I'm not saying that Teddy Bridgewater is going to come in and coach right away, but he has had the experience at the high school level coaching a state championship team as a backup quarterback, as somebody who started a lot of games in the NFL. You have that high football IQ. You have the ability to really understand a playbook and whatnot. And I'm sure that he's called some of his own plays in his career as well. So I don't necessarily hate that idea. There's nothing negative you can say about them bringing Teddy Bridgewater in, because it's going to be cheap. We hope that he doesn't play. We know what he provides as that backup quarterback mentor type. We also know that in a situation where you need him for a drive, which I hope we don't, I'd rather have Teddy Bridgewater out there than Hendon Hooker at this stage right now, because as I said before, Hendon Hooker has done nothing in this league. Teddy Bridgewater has at least started multiple seasons.
And 313 Thug Boss, I see you said when Dan Campbell wants you, it means something.
Yeah.
And you know what? When you talk about being a coach, who knows what the exact process is when you're going from player to coach? But I know one person who has had some pretty good success with that is Dan Campbell. And so if Dan Campbell is calling him in, and he's gonna, and if that's the thing, because I'm kind of hearing that too, that the push or the notion is down the road to be a coach. I don't know exactly what position. I guess quarterback coach is natural, but they're gonna have some changes offensively if and when Ben Johnson, please don't leave, but when he leaves, it's appropriate. And you start to hear the rumors of the Jets and their flirtation from afar with Aaron Glenn as well. So there's gonna be some changes pretty soon, and that's a sign of a good team. That's just what it is, a good team and a good, well-run organization. But you know what? Shout out to Teddy Bridgewater. It was interesting to see just the reaction all across social media, because sometimes these types of backups type signings happen, and it's just kind of, man, okay, cool.
Yeah.
This one, everyone was like, oh, dope, welcome back to the family. And it was interesting to see that type of reception for a backup quarterback who we hope never plays.
Yes, and trust me, I've been as guilty as anybody as seeing certain signings and being like, okay, who gives a damn? But with Teddy Bridgewater, I didn't feel that way. That my first reaction was, okay, now the Lions actually have a backup quarterback who has done something in the league, like so many of these other contending teams. You don't know how much you need a backup until you need a backup. Hopefully Jared Goff stays upright for the end of this season for many, many years to come. But we've seen, even recently, we saw Patrick Mahomes go down in a playoff game and Chad Henne have to leave a drive. I'm not saying it's going to happen, and I'm not saying that Chad Henne has had to play entire games, but it's happened in 2 separate postseason games, so you just never know. And Teddy Bridgewater, it's important having that big game experience. I believe he's started in the playoffs as well, if my memory serves me correct. So that's big for a backup.
Yeah, and you know what, KG, Teddy Bridgewater, I remember last year when we kind of talked about him as well. They talked to me about it. Obviously, we went over a lot, but Teddy Bridgewater, if there's anything else to add to the conversation, obviously like how the city of Detroit and the people of Michigan are resonating with the person that Teddy Bridgewater has shown himself to be. And as it relates to this other angle as potentially a future coach, you know what? I'm not against it at all, especially knowing that he's been one of the guys that our own players have said, you know what, he's helped me in my career.
No, absolutely. And Mic on?
Oh, yeah.
All right, there we go.
go.
But yeah, absolutely. And I said this yesterday. I think the end goal for all of this is for him to eventually become a coach in the NFL or a coordinator of some sort. You know, whether it's helping out the Lions or helping out another NFL franchise. But he has a lot of good connections in the building. I felt like this was a pretty easy decision to make. They wanted to make sure that they have an insurance policy for Jared Goff, so I can't blame them for that. Although Teddy Bridgewater is kind of rusty, maybe a little bit washed, but you like the leadership, because his first stint here, like you said, he was helping Hendon Hooker, he was helping J-Mo, he was pretty much on the sideline holding that clipboard and doing a damn good job at it, man. So I just hope he can bring that same level of leadership here. A lot of people in the building seem to like him, so I think it's a seamless fit. Hopefully he doesn't play, we all know that, but if he does have to play, I think you would be a little more confident knowing that he has so much NFL experience rather than a Hendon Hooker who, you know, you're throwing him into a playoff situation and it's feast or famine for somebody like that. So shout out to Teddy, man. I think he'll be
Shout
great
out
here.
to him. And when we talk about that, kind of like those intrinsic players, those motivators and such, one of those guys who is going to do it on the field as well, Jalen Reeves-Maybin.
Yeah.
On the way back, you talk about reinforcements, and to start the year, he was a special teams captain, but we also know that he has moonlighted as a linebacker where they desperately need some help, especially they just let go of David Long Jr., who he didn't play necessarily the best, but I think for what we needed, I thought that he just did his job. And so now to have kind of Jalen Reeves-Maybin, his return, it's intriguing to see, because it's going to be something where his impact is more than just special teams now. But he's on the way back, man. Can't wait to talk about it in this next segment. People, get your thoughts in the chat. Teddy Bridgewater, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, the Detroit Lions down the stretch here. It's looking like the further they extend their season, the more and more reinforcements they're going to get back.
Yes.
And you know what? Woe to those teams there. But